The ground shook for just a few seconds. A 4.3 magnitude tremor rippled through Iran's Fars province. No major casualties, no massive destruction. By every ordinary measurement, it was just another earthquake, and Iran gets hundreds of them every year. But this was not an ordinary moment, because within 27 minutes of that tremor, the internet was already on fire. Not with concern for the people of Fars province, no. It was on fire with one single terrifying question. Did Iran just test a nuclear weapon underground? War rooms in Tel Aviv and Washington went cold. Intelligence agencies scrambled. Seismologists were called in the middle of the night. And somewhere in the corridors of power, someone had their finger hovering over a very dangerous button. So let's answer that question tonight, with facts, with science, and with the cold, strategic reality of what is really happening in the Middle East right now. Here is what we know for certain. On March 3rd, 2026, the United States Geological Survey confirmed a magnitude 4.3 earthquake struck near the Kanj area of Iran's Fars province at a depth of 10 kilometers. Tremors were felt across rural southern Iran. No major damage, no deaths. But here is where it gets complicated. This earthquake didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened while Israel and the United States are in the middle of one of the most intense confrontations with Iran in modern history. It happened while Israeli airstrikes have reportedly targeted Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow, Iran's three major nuclear facilities. It happened while Iran's supreme leader Khamenei is reportedly dead. It happened while Iran's military commanders have been systematically eliminated. And it happened while a senior Iranian figure close to the supreme leadership publicly stated that Iran could produce military nuclear capability in 24 hours if required. That statement, that earthquake, that timing, put them together and you understand why the entire Western intelligence community went into overdrive. Now, let's talk about the science, because this is where most people get it completely wrong. Here is the key question that seismologists ask when a quake happens near a geopolitically sensitive location. Does the seismic signature look natural, or does it look like an explosion? Natural earthquakes move in waves. Tectonic energy builds up slowly over years, even decades, along fault lines, and when it releases in a complex, multi-directional pattern. The waves spread gradually. The rupture begins at a point and propagates outward along the fault. A nuclear explosion is different. It detonates instantly. The energy radiates outward from a single point, all at once, in a near-perfect sphere. The seismic signal has a sharp, sudden P wave, what scientists call a compressive pulse, before anything else. That's the fingerprint of a man-made blast. The 4.3 magnitude earthquake in Fars province does not have that fingerprint. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, the SCTBTO, monitors nuclear activity 24 hours a day using a global network of over 300 seismic stations, hydroacoustic sensors, radionuclide detectors, and infrasound arrays. Their analysis of this event is consistent with a natural tectonic earthquake. There is no radiation signature, no unusual atmospheric particles, no explosive seismic waveform. And here is another hard scientific fact. A nuclear test powerful enough to cause a 4.3 magnitude earthquake would require a blast in the range of 1 to 5 kilotons, roughly equivalent to what was dropped on Hiroshima. Conducting a test of that scale, underground, without any detectable radiation leaking into the atmosphere, in a region surrounded by hostile intelligence satellites, that is quite literally not feasible with today's known technology. So the science says this was an earthquake, a real, tectonic, perfectly natural earthquake. But does that close the story? Absolutely not. Because even if this particular tremor was natural, the question it forces us to ask is real, legitimate, and deeply alarming. How close is Iran to actually having the bomb? According to U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff speaking to Fox News, Iran currently possesses approximately 460 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. That is enough to fuel roughly 11 nuclear warheads, if enriched further to weapons grade. The New York Times has reported that Iran could potentially produce 10 warheads within 6 months if it made the political decision to do so. The BBC has used the word threshold, suggesting Iran is standing at the edge, technically capable, politically undecided. This is not speculation. This is consensus among Western intelligence agencies. So now you have a country that has been bombed, that has lost its supreme leader, that has watched its nuclear facilities take strike after strike from Israeli jets, and that technically has the raw material to build a weapon if it chooses to. What happens to a cornered nation with that kind of capability? That brings us to the geopolitical chess game that most mainstream coverage refuses to fully address. Because Iran is not alone in this fight. A report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies confirms that Russia supplied Iran with low-enriched uranium and research assistance in 2025. North Korea has reportedly transferred ballistic missile technology to Iran, including derivatives of its own long-range missiles. And China, while publicly calling for peace, has maintained deep economic and technical ties to Tehran throughout the conflict. Now ask yourself, why would Russia, China, and North Korea allow Iran to fall? Russia doesn't want American attention undivided in Ukraine. China doesn't want American focus locked onto Taiwan, and North Korea has never missed an opportunity to poke the United States through a proxy. Iran, stretched across one of the most strategically critical geographies on the planet, sitting atop the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil flows every single day, Iran is the perfect pressure point. If Iran were to develop a nuclear deterrent, even a rudimentary one, the entire calculus of American military power in the Middle East changes overnight. U.S. aircraft carriers can no longer freely patrol the Persian Gulf. Israeli airstrikes become existential gambles, and the threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz becomes credible in a way it has never been before. That is why the United States and Israel have gone to such extraordinary lengths, including allegedly assassinating Khamenei to prevent that outcome. And that is why every tremor that comes out of Iranian soil right now sends shockwaves through every capital on Earth. Now, let's talk about the misinformation dimension, because it is just as important as the military one. Johns Hopkins University researchers published a peer-reviewed study this year, specifically examining the pattern of nuclear test rumors that follow Iranian earthquakes. What they found was disturbing. The first social media post claiming the October 2024 Iran earthquake was a nuclear test appeared just 27 minutes after the quake. Within hours, those posts were citing seismic data from a completely different earthquake that happened in Armenia the same day, deliberately mixing data to manufacture a false narrative. One of the most widely shared posts promoting the nuclear test theory was traced to an account linked to Russian state-backed disinformation campaigns. This is not an accident. This is a strategy. By seeding panic and confusion in Western audiences, by blurring the line between natural disaster and military escalation, Russia creates uncertainty. Uncertainty paralyzes decision-making. Paralysis benefits the side that is already moving, and right now, that side includes Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China. So where does that leave us? Tonight, the earthquake in Fars province is almost certainly natural. Iran sits on the Zagros Fold thrust belt, one of the most seismically active regions in the world, where the Arabian and Eurasian tectonic plates have been grinding against each other for millions of years. Earthquakes here are not suspicious, they are geology.
But Iran's nuclear program is real. The uranium stockpile is real. The geopolitical pressure is real. The military strikes are real. And the question of what Iran does next, facing military destruction on one side and nuclear capability tantalizingly close on the other, that question is real. Pakistani leaders threatened nuclear use against India more than once when they felt cornered. North Korea reached weapons capability precisely because no one stopped them in time. History does not always bend toward reason.